Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with a new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and I'm going to be starting this layout with another one of Paige's new stencils, and this one is called Tiles, and it is the coolest design. I think this is perfect for making interesting backgrounds, and that's what I'm going to do today. I also wanted to start with this paper from the Bloom Street collection. It's paper number 16, all those pretty stripes that I have not used yet. I was inspired by the color scheme on that paper, so I pulled out a couple of other papers to match, as well as this paper. This paper is from Horizon, and I'm just going to be using the light blue on the right edge there because that color is in the stripes. So that's where I'm going to start with the colors that I want to use. And I'm going to go ahead and prep some white, thick, smooth cardstock because I'm going to be adding lots of mixed media to it. And I'm using clear gesso here, and I'm going to coat pretty much the whole sheet. I'm not quite sure how much of the stencil I'm going to use or how much area I'm going to cover with the stencil. So I'm just going to go ahead and prep the cardstock so it's ready to hold anything that I put on it. And I'm just going to start, and instead of using modeling paste, I'm going to break out the glass bead gel. I've used this in the past on a couple of layouts, and I get this at Michael's. It's right by the gesso, and it's basically this clear gel that has these teeny tiny little glass beads in it, and that's just what it's called. But it's hard to see it from this angle, but later on when you see it up close, you can definitely see the glass beads. And this creates the coolest effect, the coolest texture. It's just really, really beautiful. And I'm just scooping some onto my palette knife there and then scraping it right on top of the gesso, the stencil. And I'm going to kind of line it up so I can do more of the stencil down the page. And yeah, you just get a bunch of it on there, scrape it over, and then when you remove the stencil, you have the shape of whatever the stencil is. And it's really thick and easy to smooth on top of things, and it creates the neatest effect, especially once it's dry and you start to add color on top of it. So yeah, if you want to try this out, like I said, I got it at Michael's. It's they also have a Liquitex brand. This is the Golden brand, I think, but I've actually had the same container for a couple of years and it has held up very, very well. I don't use it a lot, but yeah, I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So you can see how thick it is there. Now it's dried up. It's pretty rough and bumpy when you touch it. It's pretty sparkly and shimmery, especially when you start to add things on top of it. So I wanted to use this cut file. This is another one of Paige's new cut files called Butterflies. She has a ton of butterfly cut files. This is just one of her newer ones. And I wanted to incorporate this onto my layout as well. And I'm going to start with the striped paper that I chose in the beginning. And I wanted to focus on the pinks, the yellows, that periwinkle bluish purple color, and the light blue. And so what I thought I would do is not back the cut file, but create the shapes that go inside of the butterflies and then pop them up on top of the cut file. So this is another option instead of backing the cut file. This is just something else that you can do with a cut file. So I pulled out the inside pieces that I cut from the cut file, and I just used plain textured white cardstock for that cut file. So I pulled out all the inside butterflies and I just used them to hand trace onto that sheet of paper, and then I cut it out with my little scissors. So this took some time, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't very difficult to do. It just took time. So I could pinpoint each specific part of that striped paper that I wanted to use behind each butterfly. And I really think it turns out pretty because you get some butterflies with a striped paper, and then I'm going to use some of those other papers that you saw in the beginning right there. I'm going to use that really pretty light blue paper and then the more of the purple periwinkle color. And I'm going to do the same thing for all of the butterflies there. Just trace them with my pencil, cut them out, and then erase the pencil lines if I need to. So yeah, another option, like I said, you could glue these behind the butterflies so the whole cut file is, you know, one thing. I'm going to leave all of these butterflies that I'm cutting out and then I'm going to stick them back inside the open spots, kind of like you see there, and I'm going to add foam to them and pop them up. And that will make more sense later when I do that. So I'm going to come back to my background. I wanted to do the butterflies first so I could definitely make sure the colors that I wanted to use. So once I had that done, I went to my shimmer stash and pulled out some sprays. And these colors match the butterflies perfectly. I'm going to be using, these are all shimmers. Spritz Cotton Candy is the pink. The yellow is called No Yoking, and it's a colorings. And I'm just spraying these directly onto the paper, and you can instantly see the shape from the glass bead gel and the stencil just sort of appear, because the color is going to start to, it is going to go on top of the glass bead gel, but it's also going to run in between all of the little valleys that are created from the shape of the stencil. So I'm trying to just get all the colors from the butterflies on there. That periwinkle color is called Rip Van Periwinkle, and it is a Vibes. And I love how that's looking. And the good thing about using the gesso first, as you see how I'm able to dab up some of the color, if I get too much color, or if you just watch me spray that periwinkle color, see how it sprays in a circle? You know how some of your spray bottles spray differently? If you don't want that effect, just dab it up with a napkin. And you saw how easy that was. And that's because I used the gesso. The gesso basically creates a barrier between the paper and all the liquid. And so it doesn't dry right away. It doesn't just soak through the paper immediately. So you have time to dab some up if you don't like the way it looks. And that is what I love about gesso. It also allows the colors to kind of run and blend together. I'm able to spritz it with water, use my brush, and it doesn't just immediately soak through the paper. And so you can, achieve those nice faded edges without it looking harsh or looking the exact shape as when it was sprayed out of the bottle. Because otherwise I would have those circles that came out of the periwinkle bottle. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm going to add another color of a deeper yellow. This is called Mustard Seed, and it's a Vibes. And I'm just going to spray it down, use my brush, use my napkin there, and just kind of color up all of this background where the cut file is. And you can see that shape of the stencil just really show once all the color is on there. So I let that dry, and then I wanted to add in that light blue color that's in the striped paper. So I don't have a spray that is light blue, but I do have a creamies, and that's from Shimmers also. This is called Ride the Tide, and it's a little bit of a different style of paint. It's obviously not a spray, so I have to activate this one with water, but it turns into a really creamy paint. And so I'm just using a little bit of it because I don't want it to be really dark. I want it to be that light blue color. So I'm just adding that in a couple spots, adding some water, kind of diluting it and making it a little bit lighter, and then using a napkin to kind of dab it up. So you're still able to have that light blue color, but you can control it, and like I said, the gesso makes that a lot easier. And you could definitely make this layout without gesso. I say that a lot, gesso is not required. It just depends on how much liquid you're going to add to your paper. Like you can see here, I've added quite a bit. And the paper is going to warp a little bit. It's paper, it's going to wobble and get a little bit warped, but once it dries, you can put something heavy and flat on top of it, and it will definitely help to flatten it out. I usually try to leave something heavy on my backgrounds overnight, and that helps quite a bit. All right, so I'm going to bring the cut file back and see what I've got. The colors match perfectly. I was so excited that I had all the right colors to match. And then I'm going to just place all the butterflies back in their spots and see how this is looking. And I think I'm going to place the cut file just like you see it here, kind of snaking its way from the bottom to the top there. And I want to use a small photo right there on the right side, and I can't decide between those two pictures, so I'm going to take a break and just keep working on things. I'm going to cut some very thin pieces of adhesive foam because I want to pop up all those butterflies, and the center of a lot of these butterflies is pretty thin, so I needed to just add just a little bit of it in the middle of each of the butterflies because I want the wings to bend up. because the whole point of me not backing the cut file is so I can have dimension. I wanted it to look like the butterflies were flying, so I glued most of them down. I left the ones in the middle open because I wanted to tuck the edge of my picture kind of underneath some of those wings. So those in the middle are still loose. And I did trim my photo just a little bit to make it a tad smaller so it would layer underneath the edges of the butterflies a little bit better, but you can't even really tell. I didn't cut out anything important in the picture. So I'm going to add a little bit of white tissue paper behind the photo to create a little bit of a subtle border, and then some adhesive foam. And I do want the edges of some of those butterflies there to kind of overlap the picture. And when I put it there just now, I realized that I was covering up a lot of the pink, so I just added a little bit more pink. And then I wanted to go over some of the areas that were open with a little bit more color, just to make some of the tile shape from the stencil stand out a little bit more. So I'm just using the nozzle just to add a little bit more color, and my finger there to smudge it around. And I really love this color scheme. It's so pretty. And yeah, you can really see the shapes there. And at the end, when you see the still photos, you'll be able to see the glass beads a lot clearer than they are on this the film here. All right, so I went through the Bloom Street 2x2 paper pads, found a couple things I wanted to use. I'm going to fussy cut out a couple things, including this adorable sun. I felt like it was cute since she is outside in the picture, and there's yellow, and it's butterflies, and I love suns, so we're going to use a little sun. I cut out that little piece that says something about beautiful. I can't remember the entire phrase. Or actually, I didn't cut it. I think I just tore it. I do decide to add a little bit of more layering behind the photo. I cut a little bit of that pink paper. It's got little white dots on it, and that's just going to add a little bit more of a pop of pink. And I decided to go back to the original cut file, the white butterflies that were cut out of that cardstock, and I'm going to use a couple of those around the page. And I just kind of stuck them around and want to see what that looks like. And I wanted to see if I liked it or if I wanted to remove those, wasn't sure. I tried a couple of these embellishments from Bloom Street, but I don't wind up using those. They're kind of like sequins. I don't wind up using them. I try a couple of floral clusters from the sticker sheet. I don't use any flowers from that sticker sheet, but I do use one of these stickers, one of the little phrase stickers, because it's the perfect color. It's pink, and it's not purple, but it's not blue. I think of that color as kind of periwinkle, but it's kind of more on the purplish side. But I'm going to use one of those stickers. I'm going to pop up the little sunshine with some foam, and I'm going to try to play around with some other stickers here. And I wind up putting some on the side. I found this little piece in the 2x2 paper pad that had the perfect tiny pink flowers that matched. So I'm going to cut these out and stick them around the page. I just felt like I wanted some small things around the layout. I didn't want to cover up a lot of the background because I love that stencil work and the glass bead gel and all that color, and I didn't want to cover up the butterflies. And I feel like, you know, it's pretty busy as it is, but you know, I feel like I want to add some little things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking for small things here. I'm going to use a couple of the vinyl stickers from Bloom Street, that puffy heart that's right on top of the photo there, and I put a little pink flower sticker on top, not sticker, what is it? It's paper. I cut it out. Little paper flower on top of that heart. And then I'm going to add some thread. Of course, you know me and my thread addiction. I'm adding some yellow. I felt like over to the right of the photo, there's nothing yellow. So that's where the thread can come in. Add a little pop of that color as well as some texture. And then over here, I'm going to go with pink thread. Since I've got a lot of yellow over there, this will kind of help make the sun stand out a little bit more, even though it's pretty subtle. I just wound some pink thread around my fingers to make a circle, and then stuck it right under the sun there, and then kind of spread it out a little bit so you can see it. Now I'm going to glue down the centers of all these white cardstock butterflies. I do decide to keep those. And then I'm going to glue the photo down. And I'm using the Scotch tacky glue. I feel like on every video where I forget to mention that, someone asks me that in the comments. So I'm going to try to remember to tell you what glue I'm using It's the Scotch Tacky Glue, and I love it. Works great. So I found some little yellow flowers to cut out. This is from paper 23 from Bloom Street. I went through all the papers and I thought I need some little yellow flowers, and lo and behold, I found them on that sheet. So I went ahead and cut those out, and I'm going to glue those around in a couple spots. And then this is going to be my title. It was too perfect to not use. It's from the vinyl stickers from Bloom Street. It's just the word sweet. I think I've used the word sweet in I don't even know how many layouts, but you know what? It is a sweet photo. It's the perfect color. It's the perfect thing to put right there. I can overlap it on the bottom of the picture. Perfect. So that's going to be the title. And then I'm going to use that hello. I wanted to use that. I fussy cut that out from a little 2x2 paper, and I'm going to stick it right above the sun. It doesn't make any sense, but that's where I want to put it, and that's where it's going to go. And then I'm going to put that little sticker that I got from the 4-page sticker book from Bloom Street. It says Dreamer. And then I tried to use this yellow strip, but I wind up not using it. I just felt like I didn't need to break up the pink above the photo. I thought I did, but once I put it there, I was like, nah, let's take that off, put it back. And then, yeah. I don't add too much more. I do, like I said, I wanted to put the butterfly wings up. I made sure that all of them were glued down. I did go back and glue down the ones that were by the photo there. And I did have to put something heavy on top of it because the glass bead gel is pretty thick, and I wanted to make sure that the glue was going to dry. So I let it sit. I flattened it out. And then I wanted to add something to the middle of each of the butterflies. They needed a pop of color, and I was not about to try to run this glass bead gel through my sewing machine. So I just grabbed some embroidery thread, and I'm going to do just a little stitch over the center. So the butterflies have a little bit of detail, they have a little bit of color, and I'm just using a big chunky needle there to poke holes in the paper and some washi tape to hold the thread back. But yeah, that was pretty simple to do, and I think that added the perfect touch, those plain old butterflies, and I love how that looks. Here you can see the dimension when I turn the layout from side to side, and it is going to get flattened out when it eventually goes into an album, but I'm not worried about that right now. I just was having fun making this. So I'm going to come back in with a light blue Ride the Tide color that I used earlier to add some more colors, or more pops of that color, by adding some splatters. Just using my brush to do that in a couple spots. And we are almost done here. I think all I have left is journaling. And at this point, there's only one place I feel like the journaling would look okay. And it's going to be right here to the right of this, kind of to the right of the title, but in this empty area right here. So I'm going to use my ruler there to draw a couple of lines, and then I'm going to use my silver metallic pen. It's just like the gold one that I use all the time. I just don't use the silver one as much, but I added the date, and that's it. That's the final layout. I really love how this turned out. Here come all the close-ups, and you'll be able to see the glass bead gel up close and how amazing it is. It is so cool. Now you can see it. See all the little glass beads? It is the neatest stuff. I love it. You got to try it. There are the stickers and the little pieces from the paper pads. The yellow color there. You can see the glass beads. They're really, really tiny. I mean, little itty-bitty. You have to really get up close. But it's just a different option if you are, you use modeling paste all the time and you want to try a different look, a different texture, something different, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, I know I've said it a couple times, but just in case you missed it, I got that at Michael's. And I'll make sure to link where you can find all of Paige's stencils down below, as well as her blog and all of her other collections, all that good stuff down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys like this, and I will see you in my next video.